Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Nicole with Made from Scrap, and today we're going to be making the Gatefold Folio, and this is a tutorial that I put together the cut information, the cut guide information with the measurements in memory of my sister Scrapper. Miss Ginger put together one of these projects, showed it on her channel using the Authentique Dame collection, and that's a beautiful collection. I do not have the full collection, but I do have Authentique Party that I'm going to be using. So, and I'm also going to be using some peony pink artisan cardstock that I received from Country Craft Creations. I will link Ginger's video below so you can check out her project, but let's get started with the tutorial. So for a chipboard, you're going to need, and go ahead and take out a pen and paper so you can write down these measurements as we go along. So for chipboard, you are going to need one piece that measures 9 1/4 inches wide by 10 3/4 inches tall. Then you're going to need two pieces, and these measure 4 5/8 inches by 10 3/4 inches tall. Get in frame, and you need two of those, okay? And then you need two pieces for the spine, and those measure 1 inch by 10 3/4 inches. Next, you need your cardstock to wrap your pieces of chipboard. So you're going to need one piece that measures 11 1/4 inches by 12 inches. Now, if you are familiar with the lay flat method of wrapping an album, you'll need to know that because of the height of this folio, we won't have an inch overlap on the project. So what we're going to use is spacers, or you can simply go ahead and score your cardstock if you don't have spacers, but I have these acrylic spacers, so I'm going to be using these to get a measurement to somewhat place my chipboard piece in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to be using my 1 inch spacer on the side because we do have the ability to do that. And then for the top, because our paper is only 12 inches tall and we only have 1 1/4 inches that we need to split, so we really only have a little bit more than 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of my small spacers standing on end, and then I'm going to use my, how large is this, 1/2 inch spacer to help guide me. So when I place this chipboard down, I'll have basically the same amount of space down at the bottom as well. It's not very much to wrap around the chipboard, but it is enough to do the job. So I did go ahead and place some double-sided tape on the back of my chipboard, so I can go ahead and peel the backing off. Here. Okay. Let me use those spacers just to press right up against and help me center that chipboard piece. So that will be the back to our folio. Similarly, you're going to need 2 sheets of paper in order to wrap the sides of your chipboard piece, the piece that will come around on the gatefold. Oh, let me call them the fronts. I'm sorry. You need 2 pieces that measure 6 1/2 inches wide by 12 inches tall. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and peel off that backing and go ahead and stick those down. Okay, and I said just 6 1/2 because that's close enough. I mean, you could do an extra 1/8 of an inch if you want exactly 1 inch on either side, but I just chose that. Okay. Then lastly, we need to go ahead and do the side pieces, the two sides. This is for your 1-inch piece. So for those, I'm going to go ahead and use the 1.5-inch space on the side, and then I will stick with my combination up at the top, so I have basically about 3/4 of an inch space at the top and the bottom. Okay. Oop, my paper is not in there straight. Let me see if I can straighten that up real quick. What's going on here, Nicole? Grab the wrong piece. Make sure that your piece measures 12 inches in length. That was almost a boo-boo. Okay, now we got it. 1 and 2. All right, so now that we have our pieces of chipboard on our cardstock, I'm going to clean this up and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have placed double-sided tape on all of my chipboard pieces and on the edges of my cardstock. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the corners of my cardstock all the way up to the very pointed corner of the chipboard itself. And I'm going to do that for both front pieces. I'm going to do that for the back piece, and I'm only going to cut out, I'm also going to cut out the pieces on the two spines. And I'll show you here why I did not put tape on the spine piece on either side for these wings, because we're going to use those to attach to both the back piece and then to the front cover piece. Okay, so don't go gluing down your sections of wings on either side of your spine. You only want to wrap the top and bottom of your spine. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that done. Okay, let's get started putting our book together. So I am turning my chipboard piece over onto my craft mat. I'm lining up the bottom of my craft mat, and then I'm looking at where is the chipboard piece so I can line it up at the top of my craft mat also, so I know that it's straight. And then I'm going to be planning on putting this here. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch in between the two chipboard pieces. So what I'm going to be doing is placing glue here on the wing of my side piece, and make sure this is, well, make sure it's straight in a second, but I don't like to put glue so close to the chipboard because I think it seeps out. So what I do is I place a bead of glue on the other side of the next chipboard piece. So just like that, I will make sure my chipboard piece is lined up again. And then I will make sure to turn this over and lay it down using my grid mat as a guide, and then just press it down. Just like that. Give it a good burnish. And I use my bone folder and I press into that groove to make sure that that piece of cardstock is up against the next piece. Bend it over and give it a good score. Now most cardstocks do not let you be so rough with them. Artisan cardstock I think is the best, and it does. So I'm turning this over. So what we need to make sure to do is make sure we have our pieces so that we know that we're going to have a spine on both sides and then a front facing piece on both sides. So now I'm going to be working with this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Use my grid mat to help align me. So, there we go. Place my glue on the wing. Just like so. And then go ahead and place glue down one edge of the next piece. Again, I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap. And give it a good press. Turn it over and give it another press. Okay, and just like that we have half, and then this is going to be the other half right here. So let me go ahead and do exactly the same thing and get the right side placed down, and I'll be right back. With our folio base together, we're going to go ahead and move into the left front inside, and then we'll move to the right after that, and then we'll finally end up with the center. So I'm going to place this to the side, and let's go ahead and start scoring our pieces. So we're going to start with, we have you should have one piece that measures 4 1/4 inches by 9 inches, and this is going to be the long tag. So you have 0 scoring with that. Next, you have 2 pieces that measure 5 5/8 inches by 3 inches, and these are going to be the belly bands. So we're going to go ahead and score this on the 5 5/8 inch side at 1/2 inch on both ends. Okay, just like that. Do both pieces. Next you need 2 left flaps. So those left flap pieces are going to measure 5 1/8 inch wide by 5 1/4 inch tall. And on the 5 1/8 inch side, we're going to go ahead and score those at 1/2 inch. You need 2 of those. Okay. Next you need the bottom pocket, and so the bottom pocket is going to measure 5 1/2 inches wide by 4 1/2 inches tall, and on the 5 1/2 inch side you're going to start by scoring it at 1/2 inch, rotate it a 1/4 turn, score it again at 1/2 inch, rotate it again a 1/4 turn, and then score it a last time. So you should have 3 sides that have score marks on them, just like so. Next we're going to move to a tag. You should have a tag that measures 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 inches. There's no scoring on that. Then you should have a top pocket. The top pocket measures 5 1/2 inches by 4 inches. We're going to start with the 5 1/2 inches at the top and score it at 1/2 inch. And you want to rotate it a 1/4 turn, and we're going to go ahead and score this at 1 inch. Rotate it another 1/4 turn and go back to a 1/2 inch. So just like this, you have 1/2 inch scores on the left and the right, and a 1 inch score from the bottom. Okay. Next you're going to have a large flap tag. Okay. And yeah, this measures 11 1/4 inches, well, measures 4 1/4 inches by 11 1/4 inches. On the 11 1/4 inch side, we want to go ahead and score at 3 1/4 inches. Okay, that's going to be our large flap tag. Okay, this is a pile that I've made as each item was being scored. I went ahead and stacked it on top of the other, and I'm going to go ahead and just put those together with a paper clip. Next, I'm moving over to the right inside flap, and for that you should have 4 pieces that measure 4 1/4 inches by 6 3/4 inches. On the 6 3/4 inch side, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And you're going to do that with all 4 of them. This is going to be the vertical waterfall. Okay. Next you should have a piece that measures 2 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and this is going to be the closure for that vertical waterfall that we're going to have a magnet on. You're going to turn that over to the 5 1/2 inch side, and then you're going to score that at 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch, 1/2 inch, and 5/8 inch. Okay, you should have a little 1/8 inch score line gusset there. Okay, and that's it for the right inside. Now we're going to go to the center flap, and so for the center flap you should have a piece. Oh, let me go ahead and paper clip these together. That's my right. Okay, center flap. For the center flap you should have a piece that measures 6 1/2 inches by 10 3/4 inches tall. On the 6 1/2 inch side, you're going to go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch. Okay. Then you should have a piece that measures 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and this is going to serve as a photo mat, so nothing is going to be scored on that. Then you have a piece that is the bottom inside pocket on the inside of this center flap, and that measures 3.5 inches by 7.5 inches. And on the 3.5 inch side, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And on the 7.5 inch side, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay. Next, you should have a piece that measures 6.25 inches wide by 12 inches. And this is going to be the booklet. So on the 12-inch side, you're going to go ahead and score that in half at 6 inches. That is our booklet. Okay. Next, you should have a tag, and this tag measures 4.5 inches wide by 7.5 inches tall. All right, on the center back, so I'm going to go ahead and, let me take a break there. I'm going to go ahead and paper clip all of these together because these were all associated with the center flap. Left, right, center flap so far. Now we're moving on to the center back. The center back, you're going to have a piece that measures 6.75 inches wide by 4.25 inches tall. Okay, on the 6.75 inch side, you're going to go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch. Then you should have 7 pieces that measure 3.75 inches by 4.25 inches. And on the 3.75 inch side, you're going to score all 7 of those at 1/2 inch. These are going to be the 3x4 waterfalls, or waterfall pieces. I keep looking at the cardstock paper because this is a felt, so it does have a different finish on one side than the other. There is a banana split version of this that's available. I don't think this pink peony color is still available at Country Craft Creations, but I know that the banana split was when I looked at the time of this video. Okay, let's move on. We have the top flap to do, so we should have a piece that measures 9 inches wide by 6.5 inches, and on the 6.5 inch side, we're going to go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch. Okay, that's going to be the top flap. Next, you have 2 pockets, and those pockets measure 5.25 inches by 4 inches. Why do I have these so long? These are for the tag, the regular size tag. Let me double check. Yeah, it should be 5.25. Let me trim these down real quick. These should both be 5.25 by 6. 5.25 by 4. So we have the 4, 5.25. Okay, now we're ready. 5.25 inch side. We're going to go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch. Rotate it one time, 1/4 turn. Score it at 1/2 inch. Rotate it again, 1/4 turn, and score it at 1/2 inch. You should have a pocket like this. Okay, that will be a pocket. And do the same thing with that second piece. Score it on 3 sides. Okay. And lastly, you should have another piece that measures 3.25 inches by 4¼ inches. And this is really just a mat for a 3x4 that's on the inside, and that gets glued on 3 sides and acts like a little pocket tuck spot. So there's no scoring on that. So now we're done with all of the scoring. I'm going to go ahead and start with putting a paper clip on these. Alright, so I'm going to the bottom pile, which is the left-hand side, so we can start with our assembly. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first thing that we did, which was a tag. So there's no scoring on that. Move these out of the way for you. Okay. The next thing that we did were the 2 belly bands. So you should have 2 pieces that have a score line on either side. And we're going to go ahead and just burnish those. Be on the inside here. It's going to wrap around that tag. Then you should have your left flaps. Burnish those. Those are going to get attached here, so they're going to open to the left. Okay. Next, you should have your bottom pocket piece. Go ahead and burnish those score lines. And then since it's a pocket, we want to go ahead and cut out those square corner sections. Okay, sides get tucked in and then the bottom gets tucked up. These are going to end up being open, and this is going to end up going right there. Do not glue it yet. Do not glue it yet. Okay, then we have a tag that's going to go there. Then we have our top pocket. So our top pocket, you're only going to burnish the 2 side score lines, and that's it. Not the bottom. Repeat, not the bottom. The bottom score line is just for you to use as a reference guide. So we're going to go ahead and cut out these bottom sections, just like so. Okay. And this is going to get tucked, the top pocket gets tucked into the bottom pocket. So you want to make sure that you've cut this at just a very slight angle inward, and make sure you cut all the way up to the corner of those score lines. That way this will be able to sit right down in that other pocket. Okay? Have that turned inside out. Okay, that goes like that, goes like that. Last, you should have your large flap tag. You want to go ahead and burnish that. And that's just sized so that a 3x4 landscape version can go on there. Okay, so let's, and that stacks right in that top pocket there. Okay. So I'm going to set this assembly off to the side. I'm going to start with the 2 left flaps. All right, I'm going to use my glue, and I'm going to go ahead and place the glue on the back of that 1/2 inch flap. And then I'm going to place the folded edge with the flap underneath down onto my chipboard piece, right up to the edge. Okay. And you want to make sure that your flap does not go over the score line, or else you won't be able to turn your page without it buckling. Okay, so you may even want it to just go right up to that edge, okay, on the left hand side. Make sure you burnish well. Okay, and that is that. You need the second one. And we're going to go ahead and place that towards the top. You're going to leave about at least 1/8 of an inch gap in between the two. And I cannot see, so I need to stand up. Okay. All right, so now we have our two left flaps. I want to come back to the pocket. This is the bottom pocket, and I'm going to go ahead and now glue that down inside right here. So let me place glue on those 1/2 inch flaps. And then I will place it, center it, and put it all the way down at the bottom of the chipboard piece. Okay, that's that bottom one. Now we're going to go to the top pocket, the one that we only folded over the two sides. So we're only going to glue the two sides. Okay, so that piece gets tucked down into the bottom pocket, and that score line should act as your guide to how far down it's going to go. And then go ahead and burnish those sides. Okay, and that's your stacked pocket. Now you have your stacked pocket and your two flaps. You have your tag piece that can go down in there, and you have your large flap tag that can tuck it down into the top pocket. Okay? All right, close your two left flaps, and let's go ahead and place our belly bands right on top of those two left flaps. So you're going to go ahead and place glue on the two 1/2 inch pieces, and I'm just eyeball centering this on that flap. And then I really want to make sure that it lines up with the right hand side and the left hand side. Should equal. Okay, do a little dry fit here. Yep. Centering this one. And burnishing that down. Okay, so you should have those two belly bands now. And then this was the long tag that goes through both of those belly bands on that left hand side. And without the decorative paper, it's going to continue to get stuck, unless I have glue, I guess. Let's see. I might have glue in there. Nope. Okay, finally. All right, that's the left-hand side of the folio. Let's move on to the inside right side. Okay. So on the inside right flap, you should have your 4 pieces that are your vertical waterfalls. And we're going to go ahead and burnish those. And those are going to get placed right here. I'm actually not going to place mine yet because I want to put the decorative paper down, but you would glue down this first one. I can glue down the first one though. All right, that folded edge is going to go right up to the top, and then it's going to get centered left to right. Okay, the next one will end up getting glued with the folded edge tucked right up next to the cut edge of the prior, and so on and so forth. You're going to do that with all four, with the other three I should say. So once you have that glued, you'll lift it up, you'll do the next two. Okay, so you should end up with your waterfall on the right hand side. And next you should have the closure piece, and this is the piece that the magnet is going to go on. So you have this little 1/8 inch gusset. I really just like to work it with my fingers mostly. You can score it back and forth, but I feel like you needed a gusset on this one. Okay. So you should end up with a little tiny 1/8 inch gusset, just like that. Let's see if you can see it, just like that. Okay. The other way for me. Okay. This is going to end up going right here, and you want to have only the 1/2 inch adhered to your bottom piece. Okay, I'm not going to place this one yet because I do want to put my decorative paper on underneath, which is going to be a piece that shows down here. Oh, do I want to do that? Yeah, I want to put the decorative paper down first, and then I will glue this 1/2 inch down. I'll have the gusset free, and then for the thickness of the waterfall, and then this will come up, and I'll place my magnet underneath this closure and on top of this, or on the bottom of this front top flap. Okay, so that is going to be the right hand side, and for the time being I'm just going to paper clip that. So now we have our left and our right that is put together. So now we're going to work on the center flap. So for that center flap, you should have that piece that measures 6.5 inches by 10 3/4 inches. So I want to go ahead and burnish that 1/2 inch score. Okay, and that folded edge is going to go right next to the score that is part of your center chipboard piece. Okay, you don't want to go onto your 1/2 inch spine over here. So let's go ahead and place glue. On that. We'll line it up with the bottom of the chipboard and the top of the chipboard, and make sure that you can see that groove that we made in between the two chipboard pieces. And you're not going to be gluing onto that spine piece. Okay, so we burnish that down, and then here is inside. Okay, open it up, because the next thing we're going to be working on is you should have a, sorry, on the outside you should have a piece that is a 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. That's for the photo mat. That's just available on the picture in the walkthrough that Ginger did. That was just a black and white photo mat. Okay, so I'm just going to paper clip that for right now on there. On the inside piece, you should have a piece that is a pocket. So you should have 3 score lines on it. I'll go ahead and burnish this. We're going to go ahead and cut out those corner sections again. Okay, fold in the sides and fold up the top. Let's do a quick dry fit. We need to make sure that this fits on our piece. And what do you know? I need to correct that measurement. So we're actually going to score it a 1/2 inch smaller. So this should have been a 7-inch piece and not a 7.5-inch piece. So let me just go ahead and score it 6.5. Okay. Sorry about that, but at least it was too big and not too small. Okay, I'm going to cut off that extra 1/2 inch, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut out that corner square. Let's see, that's why we did a dry fit. I wasn't sure about that one. So that is going to go right down at the bottom of this center flap. So let's go ahead and place glue. Make sure you go all the way out to the outer corner, and if you have a smidgen of space, it should be at the score line, okay, so that it can allow it to turn freely. Okay, now for this one you should have the booklet, and that should be able, well, I did it based on the other measurement, so I need to probably cut a 1/4 inch off of each side. Let's go ahead and do that. So instead of the folded width being 6 inches, it's going to be it's going to be 5 3/4 inches. Okay, I cut off a 1/4 inch. And then you should have also a a tag, and that tag measured 4.5 by 7.5, and so she just tucked that right behind the booklet there. Okay, so that's the center flap, and getting down to the very end here. Okay. Our center section. Okay, on the bottom of our center section, we're going to have another waterfall. This time it is for the 3x4 cut-aparts, and you start with the piece that measures 6 3/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and this gets placed here. Okay, and this opens up to the right-hand side, and it reveals all of those waterfalls, these small waterfalls. But same thing like the other one, I'm not gonna, we're gonna place it this way. I'm not going to glue these on yet until I get my decorative paper. So I'm just gonna go ahead and burnish this for a moment. Remember, there's 7 of these. This is really good for a collection that has, you know, a whole sheet of 3x4 cut-aparts. Okay. So now we have all 7 of those, and should put it this way. I will have to space these out after I get my decorative paper on, like I said, but essentially they're going to go down here at the bottom, and then this piece will be used for the closure, and these all need to scoot over. That's what it is. So that closes like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place a paper clip on that for now. Okay, let's move up to the top. You should have a top flap. That is this long piece It measures 9 inches by 6.5, and that gets glued right here in the center. So let's go ahead and place glue on our flap. All the way up at the top, centered left to right. And burnish. Okay. On the front of that, you should have 2 pockets. Which you made. These pockets were the 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and they were sized to fit the regular sized G45 tag. Okay, same thing. I'm going to end up placing them here, but I'm not going to glue them on just yet because, again, it's my decorative paper. Get the second one done. Cut those corners out. Okay. So that is going to end up going right here and here. Okay. And the last piece that you should have is another 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and again that was used up here by her as a little 3 by 4 piece that you glued the back side on underneath on the top, the bottom, and one side, and she used it as a tuck. Okay, so that is it. That is the Gatefold Folio in memory of Miss Ginger. She was such a funny lady. I was blessed to be able to actually spend time with her. I am a designer for Country Craft Creations, and so I'm very proud to be able to bring this to you all. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I really look forward to you becoming a subscriber to my channel and having lots of fun together paper crafting. Okay, everyone, have a great day. Until next time, happy scrapping, you all. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Nicole with Made from Scrap, and today I'm going to be sharing this wonderful Gatefold Folio made with Authentique's Party Paper Collection. This is inspired by Ginger Romp at My Sister's Scrapper. I came across a question in a Facebook group asking for a cut list. She had not created one for this project and has since passed away. So in memorial, I went ahead and created a cut list for this project, and I'm going to share it with you. This is, like I said, Party. So we have this magnetic closure on the front. This is the front. The sides I use black cardstock, and then the back, how fun is that paper, right? So let's get into the front of it. So on the left hand side here, she has a large tag, and this tag pulls out and it holds closed the 2 belly bands that are on the front of these 2 flaps. So these flaps will open up, and then you have space for a photo, another space for a photo. You have a large tag here that you can pull out and put notes on. You have a pocket here. This is the tall pocket. Then you have another pocket here. This is the bottom pocket. Okay, so we have another tag there. And then put those back in. This closes back up, just like so. Okay. Then on the right hand side, you open up like this, and you have another magnetic closure, and this is for a vertical waterfall here. So you have 4 pieces to the waterfall. I just put little strips down there, and then you have another spot back here, and then I left this space down at the bottom open for journaling. I do not have any of the ephemera pieces for this collection or any stickers, so I will have to create some stuff. So I went ahead on this flap and created 2 spots for photos. Just did some matting. And then you open up this flap and you have a pocket here. And in the pocket you have a booklet. Okay. And then you have a large tag. She made this large tag. It tucks in there. I just had some extra scrap pieces of paper, so I went ahead and created an extra one. But that extra one is not in the cut guide. Then here in the center section you have 2 pockets, and these are the regular G45. I used the die to create this out of some black artisan cardstock, and then I backed it with the pink artisan felt. This is the pink peony, so that they're extra thick. Like that. Okay. And then down at the bottom we have another magnetic closure, so this will hold a 4x6, and then you open it up and you have 7 3x4 cards, journaling cards, and this collection did come with 3x4 cards but no 4x6s, so I didn't go over this in the tutorial because I hadn't put my decorative paper down yet, but before you lay the first piece of the waterfall, you want to dry fit it. So fold the 1/2 inch back towards the bottom, and then you want to make sure there's a little bit of a gap here. Okay, once you start that, line it up with your 4x6 to the right of it, and then you just put your next 1/2 inch right up against the folded edge of the first one, and so on and so forth. So after you have 7 there, make sure you put your magnet down underneath before you put your 3x4 card and your magnet down here. Okay. One thing, so that is the project, but one thing I would suggest, and I will go ahead and add it onto the cut list, is that this flap right here, it really needs a gusset because of the width. I don't even have photos in here yet, and so I think this really needs something here. So I'll go ahead and add that in the cut list and put a note in the photo. But the last thing I didn't show is the flap underneath, and so I just have this large spot to place a photo and a little bit of journaling. What was the other thing? Oh, with the vertical waterfall, I had put the first piece down underneath the decorative paper. Okay, so before I put the decorative paper down, I put my first waterfall so that the decorative paper would cover that. But then I realized when I was going to put on the next 3 that I still needed to put my 1/2 inch strip down. So I pushed the 1/2 inch strip towards the first one and continued to do that with each waterfall piece after that. So the cut edge is pushed right up against the prior waterfall, and that way when you open up the last one you don't have a 1/2 inch strip here, it's just wide open. Then this little piece that has the magnetic, this is the closure. Remember, we have an 1/8 of an inch gusset here. This is tucked right underneath, the 1/2 inch is tucked right underneath this journaling piece so that you don't see it. Okay. And that is it. That is the Gatefold Folio. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you join me for other fun projects on my channel. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Would you like me to recreate some of other projects from my sister Scrapper or others? Until next time, everyone, happy crafting, you all. Goodbye.